I don't know. At the time,
give you an introduction to a Bayesian approach to statistics. And this is going to be the basic introduction for beginners. That's what it's intended to be. Okay? So if you feel that you're a beginner and you don't understand what I'm saying, that's why you raise your hand. Okay? That's the rule. Because after this, we'll do these exercises, and of course you have to understand to do the exercises, right? Actually, we'll help you through the exercises, and that's going to be, in the tutorial, I'll have a session where we'll go through the exercises and we'll talk through them. And the first exercises are really easy, you'll see. Okay. So I'll try to make this, again, for the beginner. So why talk about Bayesian statistics? Well, actually, Gareb already used them, so they must be useful, right? So that's a good reason. And what's the general situation where it's a good idea to use a Bayesian approach? Well, often we know how our measurements are related to the model of what our model of the situation.
All the diagrams. An alternative to that is to just commute the axes and put the true axis on the y direction, or b direction, I should say. B direction. Unit cell transformation that you may have heard about is the niggly reduced cell. And the importance of that you can is implied by how far back this goes into the history of crystallography. In 1911, Lauer started kind of X-ray crystallography, and only a few years later, in historical terms, Niggli published his 28 reduced cell types. So he actually did a scientific analysis of all the cell types that you could get, all the different types of unit cells that you get. There are 28. And it's based around the idea that you go to a basis set, you do a change of basis from whatever you have to the shortest vectors of the letters. Where does this become important in practice? Just to connect to something practical. When you index an image, I mean, Jim must know this and Harry must know this. When you index an image, you have to make a transition to a reduced cell before you go on with other algorithms. And finding the shortest vectors is relatively simple, but if you have symmetry in your cell, there's ambiguities. There's still different ways you can put shortest vectors, or use shortest vectors as a basis system. What Niggli has done, can be significant confusion in what you make.
I came optimization. It is a bit, it's around 1 year course. And I have to fit in 45 minutes. Fortunately, not 45, but a bit more longer than that. So I prepared the talk.
Okay. So
And talk turned out to be around 60-something slides. So I decided that, okay, no, 60-something slides and 45 minutes are a bit too incompatible. I shortened the talk and I put longer version of the talk in this website. And now it is good that I put it here, and I wanted for a long time to put all my talks in somewhere. So
I don't think it will. You might see a small difference. Yes, I don't know.
So I tell people, you know, you can solve the structure with this in there, but that's because that's what other people have told me. I've never actually done the experiment.
I think with that data you can solve the structure, doing a lot of mistakes. But it's very, very good base getting into it. It's a huge signal.
Line at Brookhaven with no security in 1986. We would just telnet in and host, set the display environment variable back, and I could work from my house at Cold Spring Harbor and, you know, open the shutter and do all the other stuff. And then they, years later, added security and a bunch of other stuff. In any event, this is X Windows, and the thing here is that this drawing area widget is actually there's a user interface class in C++ so that you can display images here or here and all the.
You know, it is a small signal.
We thought about these space relationships, they could have seen them, but why not? Did you know why people hadn't seen it before?
Well, I think it partly it is all historical.
Now I would like to introduce a program. It's an automatic refinement for the protein crystallographic. I think maybe some people don't want the word automation because sometimes they make people lazy and sometimes they make the people don't want to understand more detail. But I think I will introduce some case. Sometimes it's necessary because you could not do everything in your life. You have to concentrate something and you have to not forget them, just don't match something. So I think maybe most of them.
That looks a bit funny,
These suitcases belong to women?
Yeah.
It's
very
small. So my colleagues in regard to PCR, so there's no point in the station.
Yo creo que no sé, ahora sí, porque la...
I just stay up all night.
Maybe it's easier.